is everyone out there doing? This is 24 authors in 12 hours, October edition. So we are talking about things supernatural, things spooky, things scary, things that go bump in the night. And I am here with author G.E. Moore. G.E. Moore, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am fantastic. Let's talk about your book. I have a copy of your book right here. And I know you taught me this, and I'm just going to mispronounce it again. Um, Beals?
It is Beals. Yes.
Beals, yes. Prince of the South Side. And if you're not familiar with Chicago, South Side Chicago, I think Chicago, super, super timely discussion. Let's talk about what is going on with this Chicago right now and what inspired you to write your book.
Oh yeah. 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 There is a lot going on in Chicago right now, and I do think it's timely because of the particular communities that are being targeted by by some of these actions. Um, my
Let's talk
character. I'm sorry.
I said, let's talk about that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So, what's it like there in the South Side of Chicago, and your
Well,
inspiration for this book?
I unfortunately, I'm watching from afar. I'm in the suburbs, but I do have friends. I do have family who are in the city and who are being affected by this. And these are extremely trying times. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty. There's just a lot of concern. in the air. We this with the way things are going. It's as if we are living through a fictional dystopian reality, but we're watching it play out on Twitter, we're watching it play out on TikTok. So it has a different meaning.
Yeah, and very much. And so your main character here is in the South Side of Chicago.
Yes.
He is in a I think what's it called here? Hard scrabble South Side streets, and I think it really kind of gives us, you look at the book. This kid is struggling,
Yes.
and
I think about what this character, someone, this kid represents uh, the everyday character. He's just the normal kid that's growing up in these conditions on the South Side, and unfortunately, these are the neighborhoods that are being targeted right now. So I do consider what that would mean for my character, for someone like my character, to have to, on top of everything else, all of the other hardships that they're facing, these hard scrabble streets that you mentioned, just have to deal with this also. It's another layer. And as a former educator, I'm always concerned about the kids and the impact it has on these kids. So my character Beals, for me, makes it very personal as far as how this is affecting these kids and what it means to them.
yeah, and I feel like understanding Southside Chicago right now. This book so timely. Like, get this read, get this feel on Beals, and what's going on in his life, and I think super super just like timely book to understand this.
Sure, certainly, absolutely.
So let's talk about what inspired you, because obviously this book was written prior to the current events. What made you, as a former educator, say, you know what, I need to get this book out. I need to share this book.
Well, Beals for me, it has always been a personal story, first and foremost. Uh, but the way it started for me as more of a writing exercise. I personally identify as a poet, first and foremost, poet, author, and then artist. But so the story in and of itself, it began as a writing exercise, and it was something that I wanted to present to my sons. Uh, During the time that I started to write it, they're just moving into middle school. One was in high school, and my daughter, she was on her way out of high school. But I wanted them to have some characters that they were familiar with, and I wanted that character to go through a journey that was familiar to them, whether or not it was something that they themselves had experienced personally, or they had family or friends that had experienced something similar. I wanted them to look into this. You know, I haven't mentioned that the story is based upon a it is a fantasy. It is an Afrofuturist fantasy adventure. So there are fantastical elements to the story. There are magical elements to the story. But I intentionally blended the two with the magical and the realism. I wanted them to blend together so that I could present this to my children in a way that would entice and excite them, in the same way that Harry Potter would, in the same way that the Hunger Games did. You know, when I remember the impact when these stories first were published. When Harry Potter was first published, it was a cultural shift. It was a cultural phenomenon. I looked around and I saw children reading and excited about it. So I wanted to emulate that experience. Not that I wanted to copy that story. I just wanted to recreate that experience for my kids so that they could read an adventure like that. And they can read a fantasy adventure like that, and they could see themselves. They can place themselves amongst it. Without,
Right. So
and I want
instead
to
of
be
some
clear.
British kid in a castle, a kid with magic right there in Southside Chicago.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's it.
Okay, let's talk a little bit. You talked a lot about your character, the relatability, obviously partly your children, your educational background. What helped you to create this character and the other characters in your story? How did you go about that character development?
Um, a lot of my characters, even when I'm developing these initial characters, and I want to be clear that when I'm really getting into the flow of writing, I can't tell you where exactly these ideas are coming from or what exactly is inspiring these ideas, other than the fact that I know for certain that my imagination was sparked. That that initial jolt that that really started me to process and to begin to think that, you know, I want to create these stories myself. That began when I was a kid, you know, reading comic books. Uh, Growing up, getting a little older, as I started heading towards puberty, reading Stephen King and Dean Koontz, and then discovering Walter Mosley and all these other books. That like blasted me off, and this imaginative, wow, this it's possible to create these awesome stories and just sit down and let it flow through you, to channel it. So a lot of the things I could write it and I could later see, you know, I think that may have been inspired by something that I read when I was a kid, you know. But these characters came to me, and they just they developed a life of their own as I wrote them. So in some aspects, they wrote themselves. And I'm lucky in that I know that I'm really doing something. I'm really getting to the flow of something when the story itself takes over, and I just kind of I'm there along for the ride.
Uh, Great points. I want to pull the thread a bit more. When you were talking about inspiration as a kid, one of the things I really want to focus on today is the importance of librarians, the importance of teachers and educators, and how they impact the lives of people in so many different
Sure.
ways. This week is banned book week, and it's so funny because so many different books that we read in high school are banned or have been banned at certain
Yeah.
times. You know, things like Catcher in the Rye, Lord of the Flies, you know, To Kill a Mockingbird,
To
all
Kill a
these kind of books
Mockingbird.
that were banned.
That's one of the first classics that I read, and it always stuns me that that book is on a banned book list. What is going on with the society, with the world, when To Kill a Mockingbird is on a banned book list? But I just heard this a couple of days ago, that it is one of the most banned books.
So that's a goal for me. Is I would love for my book Decoding History to be on a banned book list one day. Like it's
Certainly.
like something I want in my life. But the importance is the educators are the ones who make sure people get opportunity. There was a librarian recently who just got a very big settlement because a whole bunch of books had been banned, you know, and she was, I think, terminated from the library from picking books that the library didn't think was appropriate. And she just won this very big lawsuit.
Well, good for her.
And I just think so important for educators to share stories that people might not be comfortable with, because this is a great book, but you know, if you're of different persuasion, maybe somebody you're light skinned like me, you might not feel comfortable. You might feel like this book is attacking you or you can't relate. Whereas I think reading about people in other cultures actually expands your mind and helps you
Certainly,
to really
certainly,
understand. So yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more, GE.
certainly, certainly. Um, Oddly enough, I have no choice in the matter. People of my persuasion, we have no choice in the matter when it comes to being able to uh, interact with mainstream, whatever the case may be, whether it's literature, whether it's music. We have no choice because it is what is prominent. I wasn't presented with books written by African American artists when I was in school, when I was in grade school or middle school or high school. So what I read was what happened was that people like me, we become students of a culture that is not our own. So in that aspect, I know that it's not an issue to find something familiar in a culture that's not your own and to be able to connect with it. Because growing up, I had no choice. I one of the best books that I ever read, something that has stuck with me uh, since I read it, and I was very young when I read it. It was in my teens, and it has shaped a lot of my own, just the way I think and the way that I interact with people. Was Grapes of Wrath. There's nothing in that book that had any familiarity with my culture, other than the fact that these people grew up, dealing with poverty. But I could connect with so much more in the book just by letting myself go and reading and enjoying the story. So I wanted Beals to be like that. I'm not erasing my culture from the book, and I'm not dumbing it down. I'm just presenting it in a way that it can be enjoyed, and it could be understood by whoever chooses to pick it up and read it, and not just read but enjoyed. And so for me, it's about creating something that's accessible and allows other people to come in and get a good look, and to find something that allows them to connect with the story, and maybe connect with themselves. And that's what a good story is to me, something that connects and resonates with you. And that's what I want Beals to do. That was my intention when I wrote it.
Oh my gosh. That just hit my heart right here. I just think such an important message. Let's talk like somebody like me reads your book. What do you want the reader to take away when they read this book?
I want them, first and foremost, uh, with all of the different ideas and the mythologies and the messages that I weave into the book, the first thing that I want them to take away from it after they read it was, damn, that was a good book. I really enjoyed that book. I want the story to touch them. I wanted to connect with them. I want them to want more of the story. So I want them to find some empathy with these characters, and to find a way to connect with their journey. So that's what I intend. That's what I'm putting out there, and that's the energy that I put into Beals when I'm presenting it.
I think a really important point, and I do think the book is relatable. The book is a total of, I'm going to look this up right now. How many pages? 200 exactly. I was like, I think I'm gonna get it wrong, but I was like, no, it is actually still
Yeah,
200 pages. So this is a book that you can read. Like, it's readable. It's I would say what about grade like junior high school and above is sort of your audience here. And so, this is a book that you can read in a weekend. It is all things autumn weather coming up here, pumpkin spice. So if you were sitting home on a rainy weekend, this is really kind of the perfect book to get like a little throw blanket and some hot cider and sit down and read this book. It's a very manageable kind of book. Let's talk about reading this with your kids. As an educator, how do you propose going about dealing with some of the more challenging or mature topics in here?
yeah, yeah, certainly. because the story does evolve and deal with some pretty harsh topics, and it shines a light on some of the realities that, as I said before, that um, you know, there are kids who are actually dealing with this. They're spread across this country, around this world. We don't tend to want to focus on that because it kind of messes up the image that we project of these shiny happy people. But there are kids who are really dealing with this, and for those kids, I don't want I don't want I am cognizant of the triggers, the possible triggers that these kids may stumble, or anyone may stumble across as they read these books. So I am very cognizant about handling these topics delicately when I'm discussing them, or when I'm reading the book with my kids, or with someone, not just young kids, but I've had these conversations with adults also. Uh, I want to make sure that, again, that it's accessible, that it is relatable in the way that it is presented. And if there are any questions about it, I'm more than willing to try to explain that. And first and foremost, again, a lot of this is a reflection of reality. So in discussing the topics within the book, we have to open up the conversation to what we are dealing with on a personal level, in our everyday lives.
And I think an important point for parents is don't shy away from reading a book that is going to cause a kid to ask questions, and be available. And one thing I love about a book is you can take a book and you can set that book down so much easier than you can pause a movie to
Yes.
have that discussion. And I think
Yeah.
that that's a really important thing about books is, you could take it and go, oh, this was kind of heavy, let's set this down and think about it. Or read it with your kids. I think it's a really great book to, like you said, it's kind of got this Harry Potter magic vibe combined with, a reality of civilization. It reminds me, and I'm going to go very, dark here, but like if you look at like Slumdog Millionaire, these places where, these kids just live in conditions that a lot of kids growing up in white suburb are not going to understand.
Yeah.
That this really gives you that opportunity to have those discussions.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about you're out here, you have this book. What is GE Moore doing in the future for other books, or currently any signings or anything you have coming up that you want to share?
Sure thing. I have, as a matter of fact, I got a couple of more podcast interviews lined up here in the next week or so. But I will be appearing at a book fair here in a location to be. I'll be laying out the details of that here very shortly. I had a book signing that I had to cancel a couple of weeks prior, a couple of weeks back. I'm still dealing with and trying to adjust to life without my dad. Passed away just recently, and it kind of everything screeched to a halt at that point. So I'm restarting, and starting to reach out to some of the people that I had to uh, cancel on over the last couple of weeks. And so, yeah, you could look for me. I'll be sharing, in particular, on my website, gemorethewriter.com. I've got a couple of interviews that'll be um, going live here very shortly, and a couple of podcast interviews, as well as written interviews that I've already done and that I will be doing here shortly in the future.
Perfect. I'm putting your website out here, and definitely want to encourage everybody to follow GE and download his book. Let's talk one more time, and if you've listened to multiple ones of these, sorry if it's a broken record, but I just think super important to constantly remind people the importance of feedback and getting those the author feedback in Amazon and other sites. Let's talk about that for a minute, GE. What
Sure.
feedback have you had that's really been positive and meant something to you, or what feedback maybe wasn't so great, but was a good learning experience?
So far, I've been blessed to have received uh, positive feedback. If anybody's had anything negative to say about it, they've chosen to keep it to themselves, which is cool for now. But I do have a couple of people that have even gone out and left some reviews for me on Amazon. I'm in the process of updating my Goodreads account so that some more people can reach out to me there. I've had people reach out to me personally and talk to me about the book. And overall, it's been such a positive, um, just really heartwarming experience. And, I can't say enough just how grateful I am to have been able to connect and to have been able to share this story with people and to have them reach out to me and tell me what it has meant to them. It's huge. I can't express enough what it means to an author, to an artist, to hear from their, the people who are checking out the work, just to hear that, I really enjoyed that, or to find meaning in it. It really means so much to an artist. And it's been overwhelming, and I've been so grateful that I it's hard for me to speak on.
No, I think that's lovely the way you shared that. I think it's just so important to realize that your book, the words that you put out there, touches lives, and definitely want to encourage everybody that this is a great book to download. Like I said, it's a fun weekend read. There are some heavier topics though, and so be prepared to think about having those discussions. I do want to share just for everyone in the audience. I have put some links in here to my site, Ash Coaching and Consulting. I do writing consulting, work with authors. But what I really want to share is that this event, 24 Authors in 12 Hours, is completely an author helping author event. We don't get any money from doing this. We do have some cool merchandise though, like this really cool cup and some other things. If you want to support 24 Authors in 12 Hours, we also take donations. And I've put my own books in the chat, and anybody who wants to download those, they are free on Kindle all day long today, October 11th. And they're also going to be download for free on October 14th, midweek. So if anybody wants to check that out, we have somebody who just put in here, the multi-genre musician. So lots of exciting things. We've got GE Moore's website in here. GE, before we go, anything that we didn't cover, because I know we've kind of talked across the gambit. I just love talking to you. I think such an important book, an important topic, and make sure that we are reaching across this kind of multicultural aspect and understanding that even though people are maybe different than us in certain ways, in the end, the core, we're the same. We want to be loved. We want to be accepted. We want to, have that connection with others. One of the authors right before you was talking about, one of the things people have in common is, everybody feels lonely sometimes. And her goal for her books was just that if you're alone, that you have a book that can make you feel less alone, right? So
Yeah.
let's kind of on what is the message you want to leave behind from this interview?
Uh, it's that, I'm a firm believer that we dream our reality into being. So if we collectively choose to share these positive experiences with one another, then we can absolutely affect the way the world is you know running, the way the world runs, or who runs the world and how it runs, and what that means for us. Um, as an artist, as a writer, we, it's my humble opinion, that we wield a lot of power, and it's up to us to utilize that and to be aware of what it is, and to shape that in a positive way, so that we connect with one another and share these experiences, and inspire others to share. This is something that we can infect the people around us with positivity if we choose.
I think such an important message. And I just want to say I'm so sorry for the loss for you and your family of your father. But I have no doubt he is up there looking at you right now and just so proud of you, your legacy, your message of positivity and sharing as an artist. And so it's, loss is hard. The circle of life is hard, but I think the work you're continuing on is just tremendous. So thank you for being here today.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Well, you have a wonderful day. Have a great rest of your weekend, and definitely share with me any of your upcoming work. Just love to hear more about it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.